All right, Chad. So I want to ask you about whenever you're meeting with a law firm and you're kind of going through everything and you're assessing what's going on with the firm. What are some red flags to identify whenever there's too much work being placed on that law firm owner?
I think those flags are always there. And so if I'm having an initial conversation, let's say you and I haven't met, the flags are going to come out almost immediately. I know I'm doing too much. I have a full caseload and I never have time to work on the firm. There's all these cool things out there I want to try, but I don't do it. Or they have set, you ask them about goals. And they go, of course I do. I've got goals. Here's what I'm going to do. How are those going? Like, I've got too much casework. It comes out real quick, real easy. I mean, so it's not even flags. It's just there, front and center.
All right, so I want to ask you something related to that. Do you think it's possible, like, and what I mean by possible, I think almost anything's possible. What I mean is, like, is it realistic to expect a law firm owner to be able to actually practice law and run the law firm? Or do you think it's better to have more of a practice manager type, whether that's a lawyer or non-lawyer, and then someone that actually runs the practice side of things, where it's when it comes to like the legal operations?
I think it really depends on the individual, because that's where we could read a million books on how to run a business.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them out there, and they're all really saying the same thing with a different edge to it. But I think it really depends on the individual, because I think there are some that can pull off both. Some that have been doing this long enough that they've figured out the sweet spot of, I want X number of cases, and I'll do the 5 to 10 big ones that I like, the clients I really want to work with, and then I work on the firm the rest of the time. Some people are awful at working on the firm and know it, so then they bring in somebody else. But that's a hard one too, because especially if the firm is focused around the founder and that name is around the founder, you're going to go 2, 3, 4 attempts at finding that practice manager, because the people that you think maybe internal first, like, oh, this person's been with me for a while, they get it, they get me. Well, they may suck at managing others. They may be really good at the job they had, but then you promote them up and it doesn't work. And so I think it really depends. And that's where you have these conversations with people that have read, let's go with traction. Let's hit shots or something, drinking game for saying different buzz terms. But like if we go traction or EOS, people are like, I need an integrator. That's where people default to. It's like, you're not ready for that. Right. Or you no, you don't, because you don't have your act together, or you're really good at this, so don't hand it off. So it really depends on the individual.
It's interesting what you said about that too, because you hear people talk about they'll just adopt a phrase or some sort of methodology. And I don't think that there's any perfect book out there. Like, I've always been a fan of scaling up. I mean, I'm a fan of traction. It's not like I'm against it, but it has forced people to think, oh, I need a visionary and I need an integrator. And I think that's kind of nonsense. I think it works for some. It doesn't work for all. I think that if you want to scale, I think that traction's a really difficult model to scale in, because you make it so 1 or 2 person focused, where you have the visionary, and usually it centers around the visionary, and I think people like the phrase visionary.
It sounds cool.
Oh, it sounds really cool.
Integrator sounds lame and like you do work. Visionary is like you sit around with your pipe and your bourbon, and you're just listening to music by the fire, thinking of big thoughts that people are going to do for you. Like, it's just
and I think that there's a real problem with that. And so I actually wanted to get your thoughts on that. Whether it sounds like you might be in the similar same of thought, but I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's the case, and I think when I started doing this a long time ago, I tried implementing these different concepts to say, hey, here's some good tools. Let's do this. Traction was out. Well, I guess scaling up. Although I like the Vern Gino thing, where I saw some blog post somewhere where Vern's like, listen, Gino was my student, and Yeah, basically, like this blog post is like, he's kind of a whiny bitch, and I wish him the best, and he's done great things, but still, like I got this. I'm a little bit better.
Well, it is interesting you say that before you finish your thought. Is that there are some overlap, definitely some overlap,
For sure.
but it's the basic principles actually are quite a bit different. Like if you actually were to read Scaling Up and study it versus Traction, it is there's some definitely radical turns.
For sure. And I first looked at Scaling Up after Traction, and actually you were talking about Scaling Up, and I saw, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go take a look at that. And now, quite frankly, now, like, you don't need those books. What you need to do is go to Claude or ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my issue. Here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And which is, people that work with firms like me, like that, I love that now when I have those conversations and say, here's the things I've been working through, because now it helps you focus in on really what matters. Because you can say, look, I want to run my firm like Vern would with Scaling Up. Here's what I've got. Tell me everything I need to do. And so anyway, the fitting people into the model, as I was talking about earlier, coming back to that, I tried it for a while, but then most people that are looking for that help either are going to hire true consultants that do just those models. And I looked at that once because I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just do this. And then I think it's like a franchise for EOS, and
100% it is. Yeah.
And I talked to somebody on it. It was a very short call. She's like, all right. And I'm like, well, do I have to just do this? And she's like, yeah, you only do EOS. It's exclusive. And if you do anything else, we'll pull your franchise. I'm like, ooh, okay. This is not a good fit.
Well, okay, so this is a really good point too. Like, so, and I think that part of the reason why law firm owners are drawn to EOS is because it is like you have this one or two people that it centers around, and so they're kind of drawn. Oh, I want to be the person. Right. But think about this. Okay, like, if you look at Scaling Up, if we just compare those two, this is I think this is a great topic for this conversation, because EOS is that more, you got center based sort of leadership.
Right.
When it comes, and yes, you have leadership teams and all that kind of stuff, but it really does center around one or two people. That's not how Scaling Up is built. Scaling Up is more like you're building a company, right? And what's interesting to me is that you have people pushing EOS, but it's also franchise based, where you have these individual people that you have to rely on. Like they're the ones that I can't remember what they call them, traction coaches. I can't remember what they call them, but I think there's another term for it.
Yeah, there's a
implementers, right?
Because I still get their emails like, join this call. Like, I just remember this lady that I talked to. I feel like I offended her when I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, well, you're an idiot.
Well, okay, so think about this. Like, so you were dependent on an implementer, but if you go outside the legal space, go outside of really, go look at the biggest companies. Are they dependent on a third party to help them run their business? Sure, they might hire consultants every once in a while for one-offs, but you're not completely dependent on an implementer.
Correct.
Not at all.
Right. You're hiring internally. That's you at some point, because it doesn't make sense.